Okay, so that was talking about cryptocurrencies. Let's talk about stocks now. Now, before I get into this, let me say this and be clear from the beginning. I am not any kind of financial expert. In fact, I'm not an expert in anything. I'm just trying to learn many things. I'm not trying to give you any kind of advice. This is not any kind of endorsement of stocks or any particular companies or anything like that. This is just me showing you how I've invested a little bit of money, gotten a little bit of gain. When I was talking about crypto, I was talking about how they're super volatile. Stocks have their risk involved as well, and definitely some stocks are more volatile than others. But generally speaking, overall, it's a little bit less volatile than cryptocurrency. So let's talk a little bit about that and yeah, just show you how I've invested. But yeah, this is not advice. I'm not suggesting you go ahead and do it. Whatever you do with your money is up to you. But maybe this is interesting to somebody. So yeah. That's why I'm doing this video. So here we go. Let's move me out the way a little bit first of all. There we go. So there's a platform called Trading 212. There are lots of trading platforms you can buy stocks from. You can buy whole stocks if you've got the money. Some of them, as you can see, are really expensive. Like this one is $638 per share. If you have $638, you can buy a whole share in Meta. But if you don't have $638, let's say you only got $5, you can just buy $5 worth of a share. And that's really cool what you could do. You don't have to buy a whole stock. You can buy a little bit and maybe a little bit more later on, and a little bit more later on, and so on and so forth. You can do that. Now, this is not the only platform that allows you to do that, but this is the one that I use. Like I said, I'm not endorsing anything, but if you want to use Trading 212 or whichever one you want to use, that's something to look for, whether you have to buy the whole share or whether you can buy just parts of a share at a time. Now, I have my money in the stocks ISA, the 212 stocks ISA. And I'm going to come back to why that is in a moment, because if you are joining any kind of trading platform, you might notice they have lots of different types of ways of investing. One of them is just a regular schmegular invest account, which is, you buy your shares, you sell your shares, or you hold on to them, collect your dividends, and it is what it is. The thing about the regular schmegular invest account at the top here is that it is subject to tax. So you'd have to check the tax rules in whichever country you're in, but once you reach a certain amount, you will have to pay tax on it. CFD stands for contract for difference. I don't do this. I've looked into it a little bit as to what it is. I ain't gonna try and explain what it is. It's pretty complicated, and I don't want to say it's gambling, but it's pretty close to gambling. And certainly if you don't know much about it, you may as well be gambling. It's that high risk. Apparently vast majority of people, like 80-90% of people, lose money doing CFDs. So yeah, I'm not going to recommend that. If you want to look into it and learn more about it, of course, that's up to you. But yeah, I would say probably just don't. And then there's the cash ISA. So cash ISA, if you're in the UK, a cash ISA is an individual savings account, and it's basically a tax-free way of saving. So you can put your money in, and whichever interest you get on your savings is tax-free, and that's why I use the stocks ISA, because it's tax-free as well. Now with ISAs, you can put up to £20,000 per year into an ISA, and that's what you put in. It's not about what you get out, it's what you put in. £20,000 per year, and it's £20,000 per year total. So if you have a stocks ISA and it's cash ISA, it's still $20,000 per year total. So you could have 10,000 one, 10,000 the other, for example. If you've got ISAs with other companies, it's still 20,000 per year total. So you might have 5,000 with Trading 212, 5,000 with another bank, 4,000 with this bank, and all it has to add up to no more than 20,000 per year. The amount you put in is 20,000 per year. I just have the one with the stocks ISA with Trading 212, so we'll stick with that. So let's go over to this page and look at some of my actual investments. So come down here. Now my investments are in what are called pies. I don't know if that's a Trading 212 term specifically, but basically it just means that I can set up companies within a group and then have those companies grouped together. So I could have a group for finance, as you can see, telecoms companies and tech and gaming companies. You don't have to do that. You can just buy the shares and not have them in pies. But the reason why I do it in like this is because when you set them up in pies, you can automatically reinvest dividends. So for example, I can go into the finance pie, which I'm on already right now. And if you come down here, it says dividends auto reinvest is on, which means once I'm paid a dividend, it automatically reinvests it back into the companies within that pie. And if you look here, it tells you that I've gained a total of £3.12 since I've opened this pie, and I've reinvested £1.39, and I have £1.79 currently sitting in cash. And the reason for that is because once you have money, once you get the dividend, the pie itself does need a minimum amount, and I think the minimum amounts on this one's like £2 or £3 or something like that. I'm not really sure what it is, but once you've either got enough dividends to go over the minimum to reinvest, it would automatically reinvest it, or of course you could just add money from your own if you have the money, and then it would just do that as well. And then down here I've got the real estate companies. In fact, there's only just one company in this one actually, but same sort of thing. Also reinvest on. I've gained £2.55 and it's reinvested £2.55, which is really cool. And I've got the tech and gaming companies down here, which is, you can see, the smallest one at £8.06. I've put £8 in there. It's just kind of grown a little bit, but I've not received a dividend on these ones just yet because this one's actually very new. I only opened it up, I think, less than a week ago actually. So yeah, it's quite new, so nothing's been paid out yet. Now, you can invest in whichever companies you want to. Personally, I like to go with companies that do pay dividends and companies that have been around for a while and not too new. There's no guarantees in that, but it just means that you're dealing with companies that hopefully know what they're doing, right? So in the finance category, I've invested in HSBC. They've been around for like 100 years or something like that. They're an old company. Yeah, it's been around a long time as well. Here's my £1.80 because I had a penny in there earlier, by the way. The £1.80 is waiting to be reinvested. If you go into each company though, so HSBC, for example, come down here. You see here, that's where, see that where it says, oh, it's not even, my bad, I'm in the way. Move it away. So if you look at here where it says dividend yields, that's really what you want to look for. At least for me, that's what I want to look for, dividend yield. Sometimes it's going to be 0.05% like this one is. Sometimes it's going to be higher than that. The dividend yield can change, by the way. Sometimes it's in each company it can change. Sometimes it's going to go up, sometimes it's going to go down. But yeah, I do look for companies that pay dividends. So that's what I look for, their dividend yield. And then where is it gone? Up here we go. So this is upcoming events, and this lets you know that the ex-dividend date is 8th of May, which was a few days ago. What that means is that the money that you had invested in the company on or before the 8th of May is what they're going to base your payouts on. So any shares or any parts of a share you bought after the 8th of May will not be included in your dividend payout, because they'll work out your dividend payout based on what you had on or before the 8th of May. So I don't think I've bought any shares since the 8th of May. So all that I have here, which is the 7.79 shares at the moment, that should be what that payout is based on 20th of June 2025. Different companies do it at different times. So this company down here, Armor REITs Residential, I think they do theirs like pretty much monthly. So like their ex-dividend date is the 15th of May, which means that it's in a few days at time of recording. So my 7.9 shares I have right now, that's what they're going to base the next payout on the 29th of May. But that's another thing to look out for as well. Just this card here, you're not always going to see it because it depends on when the events are coming up. They usually come up when it's relatively soon. So companies that do theirs maybe twice a year or once a year, you might not see this card in there for a while. Like if you go into this one with Vodafone, you won't see that cards there because I guess their next events aren't for a while, but they do pay dividends, which is really cool. So they're 6.8 that they pay on their dividends. So whatever shares are owned by the time they're doing it, it'll be based on that 6.8 be based on that. Tech and gaming companies, I've got a few in here, but the reason why I don't or haven't or don't intend, I should say, put a lot of money into these is because I like tech, I like gaming, but let's be honest, tech and gaming companies could be a little bit up and down. These companies though, they've all been around quite a while, so hopefully they're a little bit less up and down than most tech gaming companies, most tech companies. But yeah, tech companies can be a little bit up and down. So I've got a few different ones with that £8 spread out over all of these, but like I say, this is not financial advice. It's just showing you how I invest and how I try to manage the risk, but there is always going to be a risk involved. So yeah, when it comes to investing of any kind, the most important thing to remember is never ever invest more money than you could afford. It is super important not to do that. Like I said in another video when I talked about cryptocurrency, that guy talking about putting all his life savings into it, it's a bad idea. It's a bad idea because your money can go up, sure, but your money can also go down and your money can go gone. So never, ever invest more than you could afford. It is super important. Like that's not even just my advice. That's like any, if you watch any financial guru on YouTube or any kind of financial expert or anything, you know, they'd all say the exact same thing. They might have different advice on different tips and different things on different stocks and blah blah blah, but the one thing that remains consistent amongst any financial channel: never go more than you can afford. In fact, when you sign up to these companies like Trade In 212, they will tell you the same thing as well: never ever ever invest more than you could afford. It is a horrible idea. But yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about my own investments. I've only been using this since about January or so that's how much I put in since then. In terms of how much I put in a month, it's just down to, again, what I could afford each month, which varies. Sometimes I could put £100 in, and sometimes it might be £50, sometimes it might be less than that, £40, £10. Sometimes during a month I might realize I've got a little extra cash, I might, you know, put some of that in there. But yeah, it's just down to what I could afford each month. I just look at, you know, my finances, what I've earned for the month, you know, what I need to pay, what I need to do, blah blah blah. And then if I've got a little bit left, and hopefully I do have a little bit left, you know, I could look at that and say, okay, well, I've got this much left. Out of what I've got left, I can put a little bit of that into the stocks. And yeah, that's what I've been doing since about January, and yeah, that's where I am so far. So yeah, hopefully that's helped somebody. It's not financial advice. I'm not saying you must invest in these. I'm not trying to give no stock tips, nothing like that, but yeah, hopefully that helps as a way of a complete novice, and how a complete novice tries to limit as much as possible the risks involved by going with companies that pay dividends and sticking with companies that have been around for a while, that hopefully are going to be around for a while longer. So yeah, anyway, peace.